Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Lauren was still snuggled up in bed. She had seen her husband off to work and decided to lie down for a while. The blanket still held Brian's warmth, and the woman clutched it to her, squeezing her eyes shut in pleasure. The phone beeped. The woman opened her eyes again. A message popped up on the screen. "Lauren, your husband is cheating on you with his coworker." "I'm fed up." She tossed the phone aside. Lauren had long been accustomed to such messages. They came with enviable regularity, so the woman did not pay attention to them. "Write or don't write, Brian is mine." The squeak came again. "What's that?" Lauren was surprised to see a photo of her husband kissing a girl. "So that's how you are with me." Tears boiled in her eyes. She jumped up from the bed as if sleep was gone. "I won't leave it like that. You'll answer for everything." "And I'm a fool." Hurriedly dressing, she said, "Trusted him. Where were my eyes?" A few minutes later, the woman was already rushing in the car to the office of their firm. Having parked the car, with a decisive step went into the building. What a scoundrel! My head was pounding. He dared to trade me for some gray mouse. I'm going to give him a hard time, hoping I won't find out. Lauren flew down the corridor, resentment at her husband tearing at her heart. Is he there? Without even saying hello to the secretary, she rushed to her husband's office. "Lauren, you can't go in there." The girl jumped up and lunged, running in front of the furious woman. "You won't like what you see. Don't get in the way or you'll get in trouble. I decide what to do." But the secretary blocked the door to Brian's office. "The chief's busy." He asked not to be disturbed. "Stop it. You can't just barge into his office. Get out of my way." A furious Lauren tried to push the girl away, but she stood firm. "You think I don't know what this scumbag is up to?" "Let go. You have no right to forbid me to enter his room. I'm the boss, and you're the errand girl." "Lauren," the secretary pleaded, ignoring the barbs, "I'll be fired if I don't keep you." "Please wait a couple minutes. I'll report to Brian. He has forbidden to let anyone in, including you. You want to warn him? And I want to see for myself what my husband is so busy doing at work that my wife is not allowed to enter freely." Lauren dodged and kicked the door to the office with her foot, and it swung open with unexpected ease. He didn't even close the door. It went through my head. "You've lost your conscience, you womanizer. I warned you not to go in there." Guiltily said the girl and stepped aside, letting the agitated woman pass. "Oh, that's what's going on here." Lauren even choked with anger when she saw her husband standing with his pants down, between the legs of the half-naked girl who was still lying on the desk. "And I did not immediately believe that you are having fun here. I thought the envious were lying. There wasn't a shadow of doubt in you. And you." The woman jumped at Brian, swung and hit him with her purse. He tried to intercept her, but his wife let go of the purse and began to beat him with her fists wherever she could. "I'll show you how to cheat on me," she angrily chanted. "How dare you cheat on me? I'll destroy you. How can you have sex with some girl right in your office, in the middle of working hours? Get out," she shouted, smiling gloating girls who had time to bounce away from Lauren, who had gone wild, and was now silently watching the ugly scene. She immediately grabbed her clothes and ran away. "Dad gave you everything, treated you like a son, and you ungrateful bitch, ruined everything. I hate you. I won't forgive you. I won't forgive you." In a frenzy, shouted Lauren at her husband, flashing her eyes. "Why are you yelling like a market woman?" Brian wrinkled his nose, shortening himself from his wife's blows. "I'm just having fun. I haven't yelled yet. It's not enough to kill you. What's wrong with you? Tell me. I do everything for you. And you dumped me for some teenage girl. Why did you ruin everything? We had a good, solid family, and you turned it into nothing. You shameless, lustful scoundrel. How can you do this to me? Leave me alone." The man swung around and slapped her. "Stop your hysterics. Stop embarrassing me in front of my subordinates." "Well, have you calmed down?" he asked, looking at the stunned wife. "Why are you here to make a showdown?" He leisurely cleaned himself up. "Are you completely crazy? Hands on your husband. Did you hit me?" The stunned Lauren grabbed her cheek, where her husband's palm was imprinted. "How dare you hit me? Even my father never hit me. I'm fed up with your jealousy." She came and stormed into my office. "Who called you here? You've been following me? Is that all you have to say to me? You expecting an apology?" He was already dressed and comfortable in his chair. "Don't get your hopes up. I'm not sorry you found out. I've wanted to tell you for a long time." He looked defiantly at his wife. "I'm even glad of it. Now my hands are free. How could you do this to me? When you asked me to marry you, you said you loved me. I believed you. I'm begging you." Brian laughed, jumped to his feet, straightened his shirt, shook the invisible dust from his jacket, and approached his wife. "I never loved you. You disgust me, and I live with you because I have no other choice. Otherwise, I would not even look in your direction. I like other women." "What? You didn't, Brian?" Lauren's lips quivered with resentment and tears came to her eyes. "Are you saying that on purpose? To spite me? Why? What did you want? Did you think I got married of my own free will?" "Yes, I had to do it. I don't believe you." Lauren naively flapped her doll-like eyelashes, looking at her husband confusedly. "Are you just saying that to hurt me? Stop it right now. Your father bought me for you, okay? That's the only truth. Everything else is a farce. You're lying. Dad couldn't have done it. You made it up. Are you angry that I caught you with that girl? I don't care what you think of me. Charles forced me to marry you because my father's firm was on the verge of bankruptcy. Charles promised him money if I agreed to marry him. Only we never got the money. He asked for a loan, refused, laughed at our request. My father was at his feet begging for help, and yours he mocked, humiliated. So there can't be any love, only profit. Didn't Daddy tell you anything?" "Ay," Brian said mockingly. "He didn't want to disturb the delicate strings of your soul, and now your favorite daughter is disappointed. I'm sorry, the truth is always bitter. You're not making any sense. Don't you dare insult your father. You're nothing. You're not worth your father's little finger. How could he trust you? It's bullshit to buy a husband for your daughter. I may be nothing, but Charles isn't perfect either. Open your eyes. Have you still got your rose-colored glasses on? Then I feel sorry for you. I can't believe my father would do such a thing." "Of course," Brian said with a sneer. "He's a saint to you, and you should ask him if I'm telling the truth or not. I don't think he'll tell you, because he's used to lying and twisting. Don't talk about him like that. I'll ask your father. If you talk bad about him, you'll be out of the company like a cork, and don't expect me to hide your cheating. You'll get hurt for it, and I don't care about you or your father anymore." Brian said, "Run to your daddy. I was just about to put an end to all this. By the way, don't bother. I'll file for divorce myself. You don't know how relieved I am right now. You wouldn't dare. I'll do it with pleasure. I've been waiting for the right moment for a long time. What are you waiting for? That's it, darling. The joke's over. He laughed out loud. Sorry, it's a harsh truth of life, baby. People break up sometimes now. Leave my office. He got serious. I have work to do. Lauren stared in silence at the man she thought she was madly in love with not so long ago. It turns out I didn't know you at all, she said slowly. I don't know why you arranged all this, but I'll figure it out. The woman promised and grabbed the doorknob. I'll make you apologize to me, and the divorce so easily you will not get. You will run to your father to repent. She left the office and went to the parking lot. What an asshole! I don't believe a word he says. She convinced herself. He dared to say anything against her father, who had always trusted him as if he were his own. A new red foreign car was waiting for her, and the woman, angered by her husband's words, got into the car, slamming the door in her heart. If Brian was telling the truth, she talked to herself, remembering to keep her eyes on the road. Father will have to explain himself to me, even if it was as he described. Why not talk to me? Why cheat? I love him, don't I? In the 5 years we've been together, I've never allowed him to be humiliated or insulted. And him? Lauren's tears came to her eyes angrily, brushed them off her cheek. Money, it's all about money. But could money buy happiness? Parking the car in front of the house, Lauren entered the living room. Lauren, the mother in tears, rushed to meet her daughter. I beg you, at least tell him he can't drink. He has a heart condition. He doesn't listen to me at all. He came home from work like a madman, sat in his office with papers, and drinks cognac. I don't know what to do with him. Talk to him. Maybe you can convince him to lie down. I'm worried he's not taking care of himself. Mom? A young woman clung to her mother. Brian left me. I caught him with another woman in his office. He told me so much. Ah! Miranda splashed her hands. What is it? Trouble has come. Open the gate. Father, do you hear what your daughter is saying? The woman opened the door to the study. Daddy. The daughter, sobbing, rushed to Charles, who was sitting in a chair, black as a cloud. In one hand, the man held papers, and in the other, a glass of cognac. He cheated on me, your favorite. I caught him with one of your employees. She jabbed at her father's shoulder. Do something. He didn't even apologize, he yelled at me. He hit me. That's the first time I've ever seen him like that. He's out of his mind. I'm going to get that bastard. The look on the man's face didn't bode well. Who does he think he is? I'll put him in his place in no time. He's got me all over him. He thinks he can handle me. Look at these documents. He's ruined us. Charles, wiping the sweat from his face, loosened the tie on his shirt and grabbed his phone. Lauren took the papers from her father's hands, ran her eyes over them, and turned pale. Dad, how could he pull this off? I can't imagine. Father frowned. All I know is he managed to slip these in amongst the other papers. Somehow he put my guard down. I don't even remember when. I had no reason not to trust him, you know? Yeah, we haven't been doing so well lately, but we'd manage. The firm's been making a regular profit, and here it turns out that the property is mortgaged, and the firm. He waved his hand in despair. You never sign any document without reading it. Did you voluntarily give him everything? I'm still sane, the man said, leaving an inheritance to some hustler. He won't. I'll get to the truth, and then I'll pull his arms and legs out and sue him. What he's up to, I don't recognize him. What's going to happen to us now? I'm not just gonna give up. Charles looked at his daughter, then looked at his wife, opened his mouth to try to breathe, dropped the phone, and clutched his heart. Charles! Miranda cried out wildly and rushed to her husband. "Mom, call an ambulance." Lauren quickly untied her tie, undid the buttons of her shirt, ran to the window, opened it, then returned, looking anxiously at her father's changing face. The ambulance came at once, mother and daughter standing bewildered, huddled together. The doctor, having examined Charles, helplessly waved his hands and said, "It's too late. He can't be helped. He's had a massive heart attack. I'm sorry for your loss." He made a phone call, reported what had happened. A few minutes later, another car arrived. Charles was loaded onto a stretcher, covered with a white sheet, and carried away. The doctor said goodbye to the women and left too. "Daughter, how are we going to live now?" Mother broke the silence. "I don't know, Mommy. We have to tell our relatives." Her mother spoke in a colorless voice. Lauren did not answer. She realized that the most difficult thing ahead of them was to go through the funeral. The cemetery was crowded. It seemed to Lauren that the farewell ceremony would never end. People came and went to the grave, business partners, friends, neighbors, and numerous relatives, near and far. "What a man has left us." They were quietly talking among themselves. "Business house, everything was on him. It's bad that there is no hair. My daughter won't be able to take care of it." A son-in-law, of course, can, but the son-in-law is a stranger. "Mommy, be patient." Lauren saw that her mother was holding back from falling and held her tightly under her arm. It would all be over soon. Miranda cried quietly. "How will I be without Charles? He was everything to me. I know nothing. I'm helpless. We lived together for so many years. It seemed like we'd be together forever, and him. He left me alone." "You're not alone. I'm with you." "Let's not talk about it now. We'll talk at home." "Wow." Lauren heard a whisper behind her back and was glad that her mother did not notice anything around her. The son-in-law didn't come to his father-in-law's funeral. Ungrateful. Charles did so much for him. I hear they're having some kind of business disagreement. Apparently, it's not all smooth sailing for the family. The woman hated to hear the gossip, but she endured it for the sake of her mother. "And here you are, you imposter. How did you turn your tongue? Call me an imposter and defame the good name of my father. Why did you come here? This is not a show. They forgot to ask you." The girl snapped at him. Lauren looked around. People were quiet. Some smiled gloatingly, waiting for a huge scandal, but most of them looked at the women sympathetically. Suddenly, there was a prolonged groan. Lauren saw her mother's face twist unnaturally. She sank straight to the ground at her daughter's feet. "Mommy, what's wrong?" The daughter bent over her mother in alarm. Miranda could not utter anything, only moved something dumbly, her eyes staring at her with meaningless eyes. "Urgent, a doctor!" shouted someone. The surrounding people surrounded the women. "What? What happened?" "Poor Miranda. Such grief, and here. Who's that girl? I've never seen her before." People in white coats came running over. Lauren, as if anticipating such a situation, had arranged in advance for a medical team to be on duty during the funeral. "Stand back, everyone," the doctor ordered. They put Miranda on a stretcher and carried her to the car. Lauren cried, seeing the ambulance with her eyes. Why? Why did this happen to us? She wanted to run home from the cemetery immediately, to throw herself into bed, cover herself with a blanket, fall asleep, and wake up in the morning and everything would be as it was before. A living father, a healthy mother, her and Brian holding her. She needed his support now more than ever. "Lauren," she heard a voice above her ear, her father's chauffeur. "Everyone was already gone. Why don't I take you to the hospital? You shouldn't be alone here." "Yes, John." Waking up from her heavy thoughts, the woman answered, "Let's go and see how Mom's doing. Don't worry." The driver tried to reassure her, stopping the car at the hospital. "Everything will be all right. Miranda had too much to endure today, so the nerves could not stand it. And this girl, where did she come from?" "That Mary." Lauren shrugged. "She works in our firm. I can't imagine why she would make such a monstrous statement. The father never said he had another child somewhere. I'm dizzy with the news. Thanks for the ride. Can I wait for you? I've got time." "No, you go home. I can make my own way. You should have seen what a sensation my spectacular appearance at the cemetery caused. Everyone opened their mouths. The surprise factor kicked in, and your wife was standing there, saying something about how you could bring your father's good name into disrepute. The girl was doing her Lauren impression. Look at me, I'm in mourning." She spun around in front of the mirror. "I'd give anything to witness that picture. Yeah, you've lost a lot." I won't forget the stupid look on their faces as they were dumbfounded by my announcement. Charles is an icon for them. They pray to him. Nobody knows his real name, and nobody stopped you. No one dared to contradict me or stand up for your wife. She's not my wife." Brian frowned. "I'll divorce her soon. I just have to shake off some formalities. I've waited too long for the right opportunity, but that's it now. Putting up with 5 whole years of not having the woman I loved by my side was a lot of fun. It was warming to think that it would all be over soon. Okay, we'll talk about that later." He waved it off. "And why my mother-in-law, my dear, did not speak? It's not like her. My mother was so upset when she heard I was her dead husband's daughter. You should have seen the way they all ran when she fell. It was so much fun. What happened to her?" "I have no idea." Mary shrugged indifferently. "All that matters is that she heard what I said. Now everyone knows whose daughter you are. Are you happy? I'll leave no stone unturned in their business. By the way, I heard the crowd talking about you, wondering why you didn't come to see your father-in-law off. You don't regret it? He made you his partner, didn't he? I can't stand the whole family, especially the former one. You don't know how disgusting it was to go to bed with her and pretend to be in love. I hated her and despised her. That's what you're like." He came right up to Magoo. Passionate, hot. The man kissed her greedily on the lips. "So sweet. You make me crazy. No woman can compare to you. You say that too." She flirtatiously shot her eyes at him. "When I have a lot of money, I'll be able to compete with anyone." You know, Brian ran his hand through her unruly strands of curly black hair. "I fell in love with you the first time I saw you. Even though you're kind of rude, I'm crazy about you. Where was I supposed to learn manners? Your Lauren was raised by her parents, and I survived in an orphanage. You poor thing." Brian touched his lips lightly to hers. "But I've learned to take what's mine, and I'll never back down. Will you help me?" She asked, responding to the kiss, but Brian remained silent, his mind preoccupied with his own thoughts. "Mary, get ready," said the pretty, well-dressed woman without saying hello, wrinkling her nose in a squeamish way and looking around the poorly furnished room. "We haven't much time. I'm not going anywhere with you." The little girl, looking at the uninvited guests with a scowl. "This is my home, my mother." "Mary, my granddaughter," wailed grandmother, grabbing her head. "What is it? What are you doing here?" "I didn't call you." Emma, barely able to move her tongue, stared at the uninvited guests with cloudy eyes. She reeked of alcohol and was trying to sit upright on the sofa. "Where are you taking her?" "That's my daughter. We're taking her to the orphanage." A girl in a police uniform took a document out of a leather folder and handed it to the grandmother. "Here, a court order to terminate parental rights. I won't let you in." Emma made an attempt to get up, but couldn't resist, collapsed back on the sofa. "Why are you taking a child away from its mother?" "By what right?" "What kind of mother are you?" The pretty woman threw in her heart. "You drink all day long. You don't take care of your daughter. The school complains that she skips classes, and I don't have the opportunity to buy her new boots. She won't walk in the cold puddles in her holy ones, will she?" Emma hiccuped drunkenly. "Give me the money, I'll buy them all, and let her go to school or something. But I'll always have money for a bottle." "Enough bickering. Mary's coming with us, and that's it. I can look after my granddaughter." The grandmother stood up for the girl. "We can't leave her with you. You're an invalid. You need care. Mary, let's go. At least at the orphanage she'll be fed and clothed. She won't miss school. What does she see here? A drunken mother and drinking buddies." The woman firmly pulled Mary towards the exit. "Mommy, Mommy," cried the girl, clinging to her mother. "Don't give me away, please. Don't give me away. I will do everything at home." The grandmother cried quietly, and Emma fell asleep as soon as her daughter's cries subsided and the front door slammed shut. And so Mary's life began. Her mother never showed up at the orphanage. Only her grandmother came once and hugged her, crying, "My granddaughter, my orphan, what a grief we have. Your mother died. I didn't keep her safe. You and I are the only ones left. I wish you could live with me, but they wouldn't let me. They say it's not allowed." At the cemetery, standing by her mother's grave, Mary did not cry. She was suffocated by resentment towards her, and also she was deeply wounded by the words of the woman who came to say goodbye to Emma. So young. They shook their heads, whispering among themselves, "That's what vodka has done to a man. She's completely drunk. How can you kill a man like that? They say it was bad vodka. I wish she'd lived longer. She left the girl an orphan. She put such a burden on her mother. Mary, her grandmother saw her off after the funeral, back to the orphanage. I asked you to take her on weekends and vacations, to help me with the garden and at home. I can't cope on my own. Emma, though she was a drunk, but a hard worker, and now I miss her so much, I have only one hope for you." The girl came to the village reluctantly. What to do there? Every time going to her grandmother, she told her friends. In the vegetable garden, like a cursed, from morning to evening, you have to bend your back, wash. It's not like in a city apartment, no worries, and there are only beds. Yes, grandmother always moaning that she has a pain, another hurts. But you have a grandmother, at least someone is waiting for you. The girls were jealous. It's not good to be alone. But Mary didn't like this life, and on one of her visits she didn't find her grandmother at home. So she was taken to the hospital, the neighbor said. Heart attack, we called an ambulance. It became very bad after the death of her daughter. We are afraid, as if she did not follow Emma. The worried girl rushed to visit the sick woman. Mary, I think I'm finished. Slowly with effort, said the grandmother, looking with kind, sad eyes at her granddaughter. What are you? She looked at her fearfully. You will be cured. I feel that I have not long left in this world. How I would like to wait until you become an adult and independent, but it seems not destiny. Listen to me and don't interrupt me. I can no longer keep heavy on my heart. I promised my daughter to keep quiet, but now she's gone. I think you should know the truth about your birth. You are the daughter of a rich man named Parker Charles. You'll find his address at the bottom of your mother's jewelry box. I don't know if he lives there now, but you're a smart girl. You'll know how to find him in town. He did a bad thing to your mother, turning her head and leaving her pregnant. I thought things would work out between them, but he got cold feet. Emma, she'd never taken a drop of vodka before, and when Charles refused to recognize you, she began to drink a shot glass in grief. She loved him very much, and then somehow she got sucked in, started drinking, got fired from her job. And that's how my daughter's life went down the drain. Don't hold it against your mother. She wanted to be happy. She thought there he was, her prince on a white horse, but rich people don't need such simple girls. He married his partner's daughter. He must be a big man now, and he never asked how we lived. Mary asked, feeling the hatred boiling in her heart, and he never helped. No, we never saw him again. Grandmother was silent, gathering her strength, which she had less and less by the minute. I don't know if I was right to tell you about you, but I didn't want to take the secret of your appearance with me to the grave. If you want to find him, you'll find him. If you don't want to find him, that's up to you. Maybe he'll be glad to meet you. Maybe he won't even want to know. You go, I need to rest. The old woman closed her eyes. Mary saw a tear roll down her cheek. She ran her hand through her gray hair, kissed her cheek, and left. Mary never saw her grandmother again. I'm going to town, the girl told her friends at the graduation party. If I look for my daddy, and I'll get alimony from him, and if he doesn't want it, my revenge will be terrible. I'll ruin him, I'll avenge my mom, and he'll pay for every tear she shed. Let him feel what it's like to live in poverty. Revenge is not a good ally. Her friends warned her. After all these years, I don't think he'll be happy to see you. We'll see about that. There's an evil light in Mary's eyes. I don't want to miss an opportunity to nibble on a rich relative. Have you tracked him down yet? Of course I have. Proudly looking at her friends, the girl replied. Businessman with the name Parker, quite a well-known person. I had no trouble finding him. I'll make him pay the full price. Mary studied at college, but did not forget to follow the life of her father. She got the right moment and joined his firm as a manager. I can't do it alone. She thought in the evenings after work, plotting her revenge. It would be nice to find someone like-minded. The choice fell on her son-in-law, Charles, a young, interesting man, obviously deprived of female affection. It wouldn't be difficult to get him to marry her, pondered the young seductress. I'm sure after the first night he will be, for my sake, ready for anything, and I will not miss my own. She a couple of times, as if unintentionally caught Brian's eye, frankly showing her charms and appealing looking at him. The man immediately accepted the game, and a week later their first meeting took place in Mary's modest apartment. I'd really like to stay with you, he whispered in her ear, kissing her in the floor of the dark hallway and regretfully looking at his watch. But I'm expected at home. I'm going to fulfill my conjugal duty. It won't be easy after you. You're so sweet, but I'll close my eyes and imagine you in my arms. Are you not ashamed of cheating on your wife? The girl jokingly pushed him away, pretending to be modest. I don't think about her at all. I'm sick of her. Where did you come from? Why didn't you meet her before? He said, getting more and more atomized. For your sake, I would even go against my father's will. Brian. Mary laughed coquettishly, breaking out of his embrace. You should go. I don't want any trouble with your father-in-law. If he finds out about us, I'll be out of a job, and you'll have to take on the responsibility of supporting me. And I don't want that. I'm not used to being a kept woman. I shall miss you. Kissing his mistress one last time, the man reluctantly left. The meetings became more and more frequent. Mary was no longer embarrassed to come to Brian's office. I do not have half an hour for anyone. warned the lover's secretary, and signed up with his mistress in the office. "Can you get some information for me about your father-in-law's firm?" Mary once asked Brian, sitting on the desk in front of him in a seductively short skirt. "Why?" The man wondered, running his hands under the sheer blouse. "I want to know how promising she is." "What do you want? You're not going to marry Charles, are you?" Brian laughed. "How I would like to wait until you become an adult and independent, but it seems not destiny. Listen to me and don't interrupt me. I can no longer keep heavy on my heart. I promised my daughter to keep quiet, but now she's gone. I think you should know the truth about your birth. You are the daughter of a rich man named Parker Charles. You'll find his address at the bottom of your mother's jewelry box. I don't know if he lives there now, but you're a smart girl. You'll know how to find him in town. He did a bad thing to your mother, turning her head and leaving her pregnant. I thought things would work out between them, but he got cold feet." Emma, she'd never taken a drop of vodka before, and when Charles refused to recognize you, she began to drink a shot glass in grief. She loved him very much, and then somehow she got sucked in, started drinking, got fired from her job. And that's how my daughter's life went down the drain. Don't hold it against your mother. She wanted to be happy. She thought there he was, her prince on a white horse, but rich people don't need such simple girls. He married his partner's daughter. He must be a big man now. And he never asked how we lived. Mary asked, feeling the hatred boiling in her heart, and he never helped? No, we never saw him again. Grandmother was silent, gathering her strength, which she had less and less by the minute. I don't know if I was right to tell you about you, but I didn't want to take the secret of your appearance with me to the grave. If you want to find him, you'll find him. If you don't want to find him, that's up to you. Maybe he'll be glad to meet you. Maybe he won't even want to know. You go, I need to rest." The old woman closed her eyes. Mary saw a tear roll down her cheek. She ran her hand through her gray hair, kissed her cheek, and left. Mary never saw her grandmother again. "I'm going to town," the girl told her friends at the graduation party. "If I look for my daddy, and I'll get alimony from him, and if he doesn't want it, my revenge will be terrible. I'll ruin him, I'll avenge my mom, and he'll pay for every tear she shed. Let him feel what it's like to live in poverty. Revenge is not a good ally." Her friends warned her. "After all these years, I don't think he'll be happy to see you." "We'll see about that." There's an evil light in Mary's eyes. "I don't want to miss an opportunity to nibble on a rich relative. Have you tracked him down yet?" "Of course I have." Proudly looking at her friends, the girl replied. "Businessman with the name Parker. Quite a well-known person. I had no trouble finding him. I'll make him pay the full price." Mary studied at college, but did not forget to follow the life of her father. She got the right moment and joined his firm as a manager. "I can't do it alone." She thought in the evenings after work, plotting her revenge. It would be nice to find someone like-minded. The choice fell on her son-in-law Charles, a young, interesting man, obviously deprived of female affection. It wouldn't be difficult to get him to marry her, pondered the young seductress. "I'm sure after the first night he will be, for my sake, ready for anything, and I will not miss my own." She a couple of times, as if unintentionally caught Brian's eye, frankly showing her charms and appealing looking at him. The man immediately accepted the game, and a week later their first meeting took place in Mary's modest apartment. "I'd really like to stay with you," he whispered in her ear, kissing her in the floor of the dark hallway and regretfully looking at his watch. "But I'm expected at home. I'm going to fulfill my conjugal duty. It won't be easy after you. You're so sweet. But I'll close my eyes and imagine you in my arms. Are you not ashamed of cheating on your wife?" The girl jokingly pushed him away, pretending to be modest. I don't think about her at all. I'm sick of her. Where did you come from? Why didn't you meet her before? He said, getting more and more atomized. For your sake, I would even go against my father's will. Brian. Mary laughed coquettishly, breaking out of his embrace. You should go. I don't want any trouble with your father-in-law. If he finds out about us, I'll be out of a job, and you'll have to take on the responsibility of supporting me. And I don't want that. I'm not used to being a kept woman. I shall miss you. Kissing his mistress one last time, the man reluctantly left. The meetings became more and more frequent. Mary was no longer embarrassed to come to Brian's office. I do not have half an hour for anyone, warned the lover secretary, and signed up with his mistress in the office. Can you get some information for me about your father-in-law's firm? Mary once asked Brian, sitting on the desk in front of him in a seductively short skirt. Why? The man wondered, running his hands under the sheer blouse. I want to know how promising she is. What do you want? You're not going to marry Charles, are you? Brian laughed. I'd like to have a young mother-in-law like that. It would be easier for us to date. Are you crazy? Mary jumped up from the table, adjusting her clothes. I can't marry my own father. What? The man stared at her in amazement. Charles, your father? Is this some kind of joke? He's the one who made a joke of my mom when he left her pregnant. I'm telling you in all seriousness. And you have proof. Of course I do. What do you take me for? I know I can't take anyone's word for it. I'm willing to take a DNA test right now. I have nothing to fear. It's an interesting situation. Brian said thoughtfully. Charles doesn't know about this yet. No. Why don't you say anything? Are you satisfied with a modest role as manager, with a ridiculous salary? I'd have claimed my inheritance a long time ago, all in good time. Mary declared arrogantly, I'm going to take over his firm and put his family out of business, and you're going to help me do it. She walked over to Brian, put her hands on his shoulder, stared at him with the gaze of a predator ready to swallow its prey. Will you not deny a poor girl to avenge her mother's death? For your sake, I would do anything. I have a score to settle with this family, and your appearance will speed up the outcome. That's good. I knew right away that I could count on you. Having secured the support of her lover, the girl mentally rubbed her hands together, anticipating the opportunity to get even with her father, but Brian was not a simpleton. He had his own interest in this matter. I'm not going to let the business get out of my hands, he thought, as he caressed Mary's young body and indulged in the pleasures of love. I'm not going to share it with anyone. My father-in-law must answer for his father's humiliation. I'll only rest when I own all of Parker's property, and Mary will help me without knowing it. That silly girl knows nothing about business, but she's got to channel her desire for revenge on her father. Mary, Brian suggested the day Charles had his seizure. It's time to come out of the shadows and announce to the relatives who the real heiress is. You think? She perked up. Is it time? It was time to put a stop to this whole thing. Brian already had the documents signed by his father-in-law to hand over the management of the company to him. The young man had pulled off the scam with Mary's help, too. Young, charming beauty became a great distraction when signing important papers. There was one final touch in a properly played combination. Get a divorce from his wife. Ready to get even with your mother's killer? Your plea will horrify Charles. His aching heart can hardly bear the news, but just to make sure he gets it, give him this. He handed Mary the papers. What's in here? Important papers. This is between Charles and me. It's none of your business. If you do it right, We'll soon have the rights to run the business of our mutual enemy." He held the file in his hands for a moment. "You don't feel sorry for him at all." "What?" "He didn't feel sorry for my pregnant mother. I won't feel remorse. If that's what you mean, my heart hasn't known pity for a long time." The girl took a determined step toward her father's office. "Mary," Charles looked at her in surprise, taking a break from his work. "Any questions?" "Yes." The girl grinned. "The most important one. Do you remember this woman?" She put a picture of her mother on his desk. The man turned pale. "I see you recognize her." "I'm your daughter, Daddy." Mary said with a sneer. "You can't be." With excitement, the blood rushed to Charles's head. "Do you realize what you're saying?" "Why not?" The girl squinted her eyes angrily. "The two of you were having a great time in bed, seducing her. Didn't you guess how it could end?" "That's my mother." "Foolish enough to be knave enough to fall for your charms and get knocked up." "Why bring up the past?" the man asked. His heart clenched uneasily with a premonition of trouble. "Soul wounds have long since healed. You won't even ask where my mother is. You are not interested in knowing how I lived all this time." The girl sat down on the chair, making it clear that she would not leave until she got answers to her questions. "Look." Charles shakily took out a pill and put it in his mouth. "I didn't know Emma had given birth. Or didn't want to know? I played with it, enjoyed it and forgot about it, threw it away like a boring thing. We'd parted without mutual complaint. I told her I wasn't going to marry her. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't because of my obligations to my father. I don't know what she imagined, but I made no promises, and she knew we'd never be together. She loved you. She started drinking out of grief, and they took me to an orphanage. But I really didn't know that Emma had given birth. She didn't write anything. I thought we'd agreed on everything." "Why did you live in an orphanage? Where's Emma?" "I've come to my senses." The girl looked at him angrily. "She died, drank herself to death, and then her grandmother. Do you think I had a happy childhood?" "Yes, I admit I'm sorry to your mom, but we're adults." Everyone knew what they were getting into. Charles felt worse and worse. His heart was pounding in his chest, and it was hard to breathe. Why talk about it? Especially now that Emma was gone. "What do you want?" "That's a strange question." "I want you to recognize me as your daughter and give me everything I'm legally entitled to." "You didn't think I came here to cry on your bosom, did you?" "I have someone to feel sorry for. You see, Charles, I undid a button on my shirt. The firm's going through a rough patch, but I promise, as soon as I get things straightened out, I'll get you on the books. You realize I can't just announce that you're my daughter. I have to check everything, prepare my family. It's too sudden for you to show up. I have a grown-up daughter. You don't believe me?" "Not that I don't believe you," the man replied evasively. "I'm used to trusting confirmed facts, not words. I'm sorry, I don't feel well. Let's talk later." He dialed the secretary. "Lucy, call me a car. I'm going home. Oh, by the way," Mary handed over a folder. "Brian wanted me to give this to you." Charles took a quick glance at the papers in the car and was horrified. What a scoundrel! He shouted indignantly as he entered the house. Miranda rushed toward him. "Charles, what's wrong? Your face is gone. Who are you talking about?" "We're ruined," the man said confusedly as he leafed through the documents. He poured cognac into his glass and drank a good half of it. "Explain what's going on. Who is the scoundrel?" "It's our son-in-law, the scoundrel, the sneaky bastard. He's got me wrapped around his finger. He's taken everything I've built up over the years." "Wait, Charles, we need to talk to Brian. I'm sure he'll have something to say." "It's not that simple. Dejected, the man disappeared behind the office door. "Charles, don't drink." Looking in on him, his wife urged him on. "Alcohol will kill you." "It's not alcohol, it's our son-in-law who'll kill me." "Don't disturb me, I want to be alone." The news was fatal for Charles. His poor heart couldn't bear the betrayal of the man he trusted. From the hospital, a tired Lauren returned to an empty house. "Brian." She called for her husband, looked around the rooms, but he wasn't home. "How I hoped you would support me." The woman went into the bedroom and, without undressing, laid down in bed, tears staining her eyes. "Alone, I'm all alone." An uneasy sleep carried her into its embrace. She dreamed of her smiling mother. She stretched her arms to her, inviting her into her embrace. Behind her back loomed her father. Lauren couldn't make out his face. It was blurry, indistinct. She ran toward her parents, and they were moving away. She fell to the ground, panting, exhausted, and woke up in a cold sweat. "Brian." The woman turned her head toward her husband's pillow, but the bed at his side remained unmade. "Where are you?" "Is it Mary's?" She got up, washed her face, changed her clothes, had a quick breakfast, got in the car, and drove back to the hospital. The phone was silent, though Lauren waited expectantly for her husband to call. "Mommy, I miss you so much." Lauren sat by her mother's bedside, held her thin, lifeless fingers and cried. She reached out and stroked her sickly cheek. Miranda was asleep. "I don't understand how Brian could do this to us. What have I done wrong to him? He ruined us. He tricked Dad into signing the papers, and now everything we had belongs to him. I'm all alone, with no husband, no dad, and no money. Don't you leave me." The woman sobbed. "My whole life is going down the drain, but I promise." Through tears, said Lauren, "I'll fight. I'll find a good lawyer. He will definitely bring Brian to the surface. There was some kind of fraud involved. My dad couldn't have voluntarily given him the firm and left me with nothing. I'm sure the truth is on our side, but you better come back to me soon." She leaned over and kissed her mother's hand. "Stop crying," softly ordered the doctor, entering the room. "Immediately stop this dampness breeding. Cry and go home. Your mother should not worry." "I'm sorry, doctor." Wiping her tears, said Lauren, "What's going to happen to her? Will she get better? Is there any hope?" "The prognosis is good," the man reassured her. "Speech will be restored in time, sensitivity in her leg and arm too. I think after rehabilitation she'll be able to move around on her own, and the rest will be up to her. Time will tell. Go home." After a moment's silence, the doctor said, "She'll sleep till morning, and you should get some rest. You don't look very well, to say the least." "Yeah, I haven't been sleeping well. I've had a lot on my mind all at once." "Well, you're young. God only sends us the trials we can bear. You'll see, everything will work out. Try to calm down, let the situation go. Nothing can be changed. You have to learn to live with it. Your mother needs you healthy and strong." "You're right, of course, thank you." Lauren walked out of the hospital building, breathed a full breath. The troubling thoughts wouldn't let go. The woman was on the mend. Where? Looking around for a car, she asked herself. "I don't understand. I left it here. Was it stolen? Ah, excuse me." She turned to the security guard. "My car is missing." "What kind of car?" Lauren gave the make, color, and license plate number. "So it was towed about a half hour ago." "By who?" "Some guy showed me the papers and took it away. Said he lost his keys. That's weird." The woman looked at them puzzled. "Then call me a cab, please." Her red foreign car was parked in front of the house. What kind of joke is this? Lauren was indignant, getting out of the cab. Have you lost your conscience? Lauren put the key in the keyhole and couldn't open the lock. Hey, Brian, open up. She banged on the door and pressed the bell button. What do you want? The man reluctantly opened the door. You changed the locks while I was at my mom's, but why? Why are you yelling? You've got the whole street in an uproar. Brian stood in the doorway, not letting Lauren through. You're gonna keep me out of the door for a long time, let me through. She tried to push him out of the way. It's my house, that's where my stuff is. Not anymore. Mockingly, the man said, This is my house, and you're out of here. He set the suitcase on the porch. Take your things and go. You have no right to kick me out of here. This house was built for us by my father, and I am his heir. I'd rather you left. You're wrong. Everything that once belonged to you is now mine, and the car too. The keys. He held out his palm demandingly. Lauren put in a bunch of keys. I gave you the car, but it's registered to me, so forget about it. It's okay. You can take public transportation like regular people. He laughed evilly. Why? Whispered the woman, not understanding, looking at her husband. Tears came to her eyes. What did I and my family do to you? Do you have a grudge against your father? There was something good in our life. Oh my God, what resentment are you talking about? The kind of resentment you get in kindergarten when you take away your favorite toy. You've trampled on our good name. It's time to get even for that. And our good life together, I remember it with a shudder. You chose the right moment to get even when I need your support. Lauren grinned sadly. I didn't expect you to be so mean. Don't feel sorry for me. My heart is deaf to your exhortations. Consider it compensation for the 5 years I had to live with you at Charles's mercy and for the humiliation my father endured. Without another word, the man slammed the door, leaving Lauren at a loss. Where am I supposed to go now? Not to a hotel. She dialed her aunt's number. Aunt Claire, can I stay with you for a while? Lauren? Her father's sister answered kindly. What's wrong? Brian swindled us out of our property, and I have no place to stay. Wow, that's how it is. What about Mom? How's Mom doing? As long as the doctors are cautious, it's gonna be a long rehab. So, can I stay with you? Oh dear, the woman's in a hurry. I'm sorry, I can't take you in. I'm renovating. It's gonna be uncomfortable. Your mother will need special care. I don't want to take on such a responsibility. My health is failing me, I'm sorry. And the woman hung up. Lisa? Lauren dialed her cousin's number. Can I stay with you for a while? I'm sorry. She heard back, I can't take you in. I'm going away on a business trip. Can I keep an eye on the apartment while you're away? I promise not to interfere or bring guests. I just don't have a place to sleep. I've got enough problems of my own. I don't want to take on yours. Sorry, don't count on me. What's going on? Despondently thought the woman, dialing one by one the numbers of her relatives. Each one found a reason to refuse her. The whole world is against us. No one wants to help, and I don't even have a place to stay. I can't even go to a hotel. I don't have a penny in my pocket, and Brian has blocked my cards. Desperate, Lauren called a distant relative. Aunt Nancy, hello. Lauren, hello, darling. It's good to hear from you. Aunt Nancy, can I stay with you? It so happens that my mother and I are homeless. Mom's in the hospital, and there's no one else I can go to but you. What happened? Can I tell you when I see you? No need to talk. Just come over. Lauren called a cab, and in a few minutes she was at her aunt's house. Sit down. Let's have dinner together. The old woman was bustling in the kitchen. Tell me, how's your mother? Has she recovered? What do the doctors say? Not yet. The young woman said tiredly, I hope everything will be all right. At least my condition is stable now, but I don't know where to get the money for rehabilitation. Brian left us with nothing. The medicine is very expensive. What the hell is he doing? He blocked all my cards. That's what was in my wallet. She showed me some bills. He even took the car he gave me as a gift. What a scumbag, you crotchety bastard. I never liked him, the slippery type. If someone asked me for advice, I'd never marry you to him. He's got scoundrel written all over his forehead. I'll deal with him. I'll get over him. I'll get my head around it all at once. I've forgotten when I've had a good night's sleep. Thank you for taking me in. Oh, I'm talking to you. Auntie's taken over. You're tired, I see. Come, the bed's ready. Lie down and rest. Tomorrow we'll think about how to live our lives. Remember, you're not alone. Lauren stretched out on the soft sofa with pleasure. The events of the day had taken away the last of her strength, and she fell asleep immediately, only touching her head on the pillow. She was awakened in the middle of the night by a phone call. Hello. A woman spoke in a husky voice. Lauren, your mother died half an hour ago. She heard an unfamiliar female voice. Please accept our condolences. How? Lauren gasped. I was in last night. The doctor said she had good prospects for recovery. She had a second stroke. After that, your mom didn't stand a chance. Excuse me. The girl on the other end of the line was quiet for a moment. Then she said, There is no point in going now. We are waiting for you in the morning. We need to draw up the documents. Lauren listened to the short beeps for a long time, staring at the wall. Lauren? Aunt Nancy peeked through the door, squinting awake from the bright light. Who was that? What's the matter? Mom? Yeah, Mom's dead. The woman barely said a word, fell back on her pillow and sobbed. What a grief! Auntie shook her head. She'd just buried her father, and then there were funerals again. Trouble has come. Open the gates. I don't even have any money. Tearing her tear-stained face from the pillow, Lauren said, To bury my mom. Don't worry about that. I'll talk to the relatives tomorrow. We won't leave you in trouble. Aunt Nancy, thank you. You're the only one who responded, who didn't refuse to help, who took me in. I can't imagine what would have happened to me if it hadn't been for you. Well, rest for now. We'll decide tomorrow what we're going to do. Grief-stricken, Lauren almost did not remember burying her mother. She fell into a severe depression. All day she lay in her room on the couch with her head covered with a blanket. Half dream, half reality, alternated days and nights, she lost count of them. It was her aunt who brought her out of this state. Get up. She pestered her. You can't lie there all the time. You have to eat. Just a little? I don't want anything. In a colorless voice, said Lauren, I don't want anything. Get up. I've prepared something delicious. I won't let you die. Don't get your hopes up. Your parents would never forgive me if something happened to you. Lauren walked reluctantly to the kitchen, pushing a couple spoonfuls of some food into herself, unable to taste it. Sluggish, her hair disheveled, her gaze blank, she wrapped herself in a blanket, trying to get rid of her relatives' annoying attention and be alone. I know it's hard for you right now. One day the woman spoke to her. But you must realize that you can't stay with me forever. You have to learn to support yourself. It's time to look for a job, rent a place to live. You are not small. You should understand. You've lived a little, and it's time to know your honor. Guests are guests, but you have to get on with your life. Yes, of course, you're right. Lauren was embarrassed by her aunt's words. I realize I've overstayed my welcome. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I've never worked, and I don't know how to do anything but housework. Have you had any education other than school? No. The young woman blushed. I thought I didn't need it. First my father and then my husband provided for me, and I had no idea that I would ever be left without money and have to earn it myself. But in the store you can cope with the duties of a saleswoman. Do you have taste? Do you know what's trendy in clothes? Yes, I can do that. But who'd hire me without experience? I'll help you. Aunt Nancy promised. I have a friend who needs a consultant in an expensive store. She is strong in accounting, organizing, providing it is her specialty, but in fashion she knows nothing, only you. She looked at her niece critically. You need to clean yourself up and learn to smile again. Without that, the trade will not go. I will try. The young woman was happy. I won't let you down. 2 days later, Lauren already stood behind the counter of a fashion boutique and perfectly coped with the role of clothing stylist. Her heart still ached, but not as much. Outwardly, she tried to hold herself together, only occasionally catching sympathetic glances her employer. Apparently, her aunt had told her of the grief that had befallen their family. Lauren, Aunt Nancy declared one evening when the woman had returned from work and was about to retire to her room. No offense to me, but you're going to have to look for an apartment. You can't stay with me all the time. I helped you with your job and gave you a place to stay for a while. Why do you want to live with an old woman? You want me to move out? Yes. There was a guilty look in the old woman's eyes. My relatives already look at me askew. I don't care what they think, but I'm used to living alone. It's time for you to get on with your life. After a week, Lauren moved into a rented apartment. It was quiet. It was hard to get used to independence, but the woman realized that she had no one to rely on. She had to rely only on herself. Mary rejoiced. At last, she said joyfully to Brian, "We've done it. We've destroyed them. How cleverly you've calculated everything. I couldn't have done it without your help." Brian sat in the chair that Charles had recently occupied and gave orders to his subordinates. In 6 months, I will get my share and enjoy my life. The girl sat on the table in front of her lover and cheerfully chattered her legs. I always knew that my place was in high society, not in a run-down village. At least something good my mother did for me. A wealthy father is cool. But you'll have to take a DNA test first. No one will take your word for it that you're Charles' daughter. Yeah, you're right. Mary got serious. I have to submit all the papers to the notary beforehand, and I don't think there will be any problems with the division of property. Sis, by all accounts, will not quarrel with me, and if she does, I'll break her teeth. We've done everything. Brian smiled enigmatically, looking at his mistress. To keep the firm in our hands. Why don't you start? Hurried Mary to the notary. Everything has been known for a long time. 6 months passed, and all the invitees gathered to hear Charles's will. Lauren is waiting. He calmly looked at his watch. The time had not yet expired. Maybe she won't come. Are they afraid to meet relatives? What kind of relatives are we now? My father's gone, my mother's gone. We can't start until all interested parties are present. Well, everyone who wanted to come is here. The notary finally announced, I can now read the will. He paused for a moment. Unfortunately, Charles's business has not been going well lately, so all of his property is described for debts and goes to pay them. And the firm. Mary glared angrily with her eyes, barely containing her emotions. And the firm stays with the rightful owner. The notary pointed at Brian. He grinned and looked around the room victoriously. What a scoundrel, someone said. How could Charles leave his own daughter without a penny? Added another. Is it so? Mary asked, looking indignantly at the notary. Nothing to inherit? And you wanted to gouge your relatives for free. Someone remarked, and everyone laughed. Take a good look. The girl asked the notary. Maybe there's some money left. Everything that was there has passed into the hands of the rightful owner. He's in front of you. Why didn't Lauren come? One of the relatives asked again. She was right. She probably knew how her father was doing, so why upset herself unnecessarily? The visitors slowly began to disperse, discussing the Parker family. Brian, Mary called out to the man, "What the hell are you doing? Why am I just now finding out that the inheritance all went under the hammer? Did you know?" "Oh, darling." He walked to the car without stopping. Everyone got what they could. "Get in." He turned to her. "I'll drop you at the apartment." "The apartment?" The girl freaked out. "No, we're going to your place now. I want to know how the firm ended up in your hands." All the way there, Mary was resentfully silent. "You're going to screw me over?" Mary threw her purse irritably on the sofa in the living room and sank down on it. "I made this gamble with you, just for the inheritance, and now it turns out that my dear daddy is bankrupt. The house has been repossessed, and the firm is in your name, Clever. Why are you yelling? You're giving me a headache. You bastard, convinced that we're together, that we'll divide the property between us. And now it turns out that I'm a fool, and you're in the chocolate. Didn't you just swear to me that you'd love me forever?" She suddenly stopped her fiery speech and squinted at Brian. "Wait a minute. So you knew everything, you had it all figured out, and you just needed me as a diversion. You bastard. You used me as a diversion." The girl came at him with her fists. "Shut up." Brian cut her off roughly. "Yes, I admit I used you, but didn't we both avenge our parents? The money, the firm, it's just a nice bonus. Then give me my cut. I helped you. You said yourself you couldn't have done it without me. I'm sorry, it's not my intention to share with anyone. But the firm is making a good profit, so give me a percentage. I'll take 50%. Even though you're not legally entitled to it at all. I know how you got it. Alas, you'll get nothing here either. I've already found a buyer for it. As soon as I finalize the deal, I'm leaving the country. I want to start a new life with a clean slate and not see anyone from the past. And me, I thought we were together. I'm sorry, we're going our separate ways now. We had a good time together, but there's no place for you in my new life." "Oh, you bastard." Mary lost her temper and lashed out at Brian. "I slept with you. I distracted my father while you slipped him the right papers, and now I'm being scrapped. I should have known that a man who betrayed me once would betray me next time. You treated me like your wife, you despicable traitor. For an illiterate orphan, you're too smart, but that won't help you." The man grabbed Mary and threw her on his shoulder, grabbing her purse. "I almost got emotional and threw you a consolation prize in the form of a tidy sum, but now you'll get nothing." He shoved the woman out the gate of the house and quickly closed it. "Bastard." Magusa drummed on the door, then started kicking it. "You're a thief, damn you. If you don't move away from the door, I'll call the police." "Call them? Then I'll tell everyone how you got my father's money. I'm sure some people would be happy to send you to jail. You'll never make it. Unless you want to come after me. Need I remind you who gave Charles a heart attack? And your spectacular appearance at his funeral was probably memorable. Of course, everyone will remember it ended in Miranda's death. You wouldn't dare. No one would believe you. I assure you, they will believe me. You don't know what miracles are done for money, but how would you, a beggar? Damn you, that money won't bring you happiness anyway. We'll see about that. You say that because you have nothing. Go away. I don't want to see you again. You think you can handle me?" Furious, Mary threw her fist in the direction of the house. "Don't think you can get rid of me that easily. I'm leaving, but I'll be back, and then you scoundrel, won't be happy." She muttered to herself, "You've got the wrong girl. I'll get my revenge. Don't expect me to leave easily with the money." She didn't call or seek Brian for several days. He didn't say a word either. "You think you've managed to fool around. You're wrong." She simmered, sitting alone at home. "I'll do anything to get my money back, but I won't go to any trouble. I'll get you on the sly." Living in an orphanage taught me a lot of things, including the ability to be patient for a while. She waited a few days, then decided to act. "Brian," she murmured softly into the receiver to her lover. "I missed you and I thought, why should we fight? I suggest we bury the hatchet." "I'm sorry. Why don't we get together?" "That's the right thing to do." Satisfied, Brian gladly accepted the truce. "Come, I have a surprise for you. I saw your sister," mockingly he announced when Mary appeared in the house. In a fashion boutique. The man had just gotten out of the shower, his damp hair glistening, strong tanned arms, gently embraced his guest. "Wow!" The girl raised her eyebrows in surprise, snuggling up to him. "Money for expensive clothes. Did she find a rich sponsor?" "Don't be ridiculous. Who would be interested in her?" Brian grinned contemptuously. "She works there." "Works? It's funny to see a former rich girl behind the counter." Mary foxed around Brian, trying to put him off guard. "I don't care about her, though." "Honey," she looked at the man affectionately. "I didn't come here to talk." The girl unambiguously ran her hand over his bare chest. "I remembered our stormy nights every day. I never thought I'd get to hold my sweet girl." Brian picked her up in his arms and carried her into the bedroom. "How did I miss you? Aren't you interested in how things are going with the firm?" He asked her half an hour later, lying in bed with her after a lot of lovemaking. "I do not want to quarrel with you again. You want to tell me yourself. I only wonder what will happen to the work, how the new owner will dispose of the staff. In 2 days, I have a sale. The buyer offered a good price and promised not to fire anyone then." He kissed Mary impulsively. "I'm getting on a plane, and in a few hours I'll be far away from here. Can you imagine how nice it is to live large and not deny yourself anything?" "What I love," he laughed, noticing the girl's frown. "Don't be angry. In this life, everyone is for himself. I managed to pull off a profitable business, and you will succeed. You are still so young." "I'm not angry," discreetly replied Seductress. "What makes you think that? Did you really think that I would want to marry you? I just got rid of my wife, and you offer me a new collar to hang around my neck. Please save me the trouble of making excuses. Let's put our quarrels behind us. Today I want to enjoy you, and tomorrow we do not know what awaits us tomorrow." At last, exulted the man, opening a bottle of champagne at dinner. "Tomorrow morning I have a meeting with the seller. We sign the papers, and I am rich." He poured the wine into glasses. "Mary, let's drink to a successful transaction. Of course, we shouldn't celebrate until all the signatures are in, but the contract's already drawn up. It's just a matter of picking up my money tomorrow. I'm happy for you." The girl was smiling, but her own hatred was rising in her heart. "And my wife won't get anything. She's not my wife." Brian frowned. "Heartless, she's been with you for 5 years. Doesn't she deserve some compensation? Have you been divorced yet? That's the sticking point." Brian took a sip. "Until I have a stamp in my passport, I can't leave. You see, I can't do without the proverbial 3 months to think about it, so I'll have to wait a little longer." He jumped up, glass in hand, made a circle around the living room, and sat down at the table again. But I'm patient. If I can live 5 years with a woman I don't love, so a few days don't solve anything. But after that, freedom is worth waiting for. They spent half the night making love again. In the morning, Mary quietly crawled out from under the blanket. "Sleep, my sweet." She smiled wickedly, looking at the sleeping man, fire burning in her eyes. "I won't let you get your hands on that money. It's all the same, in my opinion," whispered the girl and resolutely left the room. "Let's see what you'll sing when I fixed your car a little." She tiptoed into the garage, looking around. "That's it." Carefully cutting the brake hose, Mary said, "I hope you don't find out right away that the car has no brakes." She gave a satisfied laugh. "I warned you not to make me angry, and you didn't listen? I'll feel sorry for you." Just as quietly, she went back to bed and fell peacefully asleep, gently pressed against the man's warm side. "Mary," in the morning Brian woke the girl with an affectionate kiss. "I'm going to go prepare a festive dinner. If you're a good girl, I'll share the money with you." He was on his way to the door when Mary called out to him, "Darling, give me a kiss goodbye." "Well, it's too soon to say goodbye." Unsuspecting, the man returned and kissed her, smiling cheerfully. "Before you can miss me, I'll be back. There are many more hot nights ahead of us. My departure has been postponed indefinitely." Who knows, who knows?" Mary muttered under her breath, smiling nastily back at him. Brian whistled merrily as he drove the car, everything in his life working out perfectly. What the hell? Suddenly he was worried. The man pressed the brake pedal on a curve, but it slammed into the floor. The brakes? What's wrong with the brakes? And he gripped the steering wheel of the car in terror, trying to steady it on the tight corner, but it wouldn't obey. In the last seconds of his life, Brian saw a huge truck right under the wheels, which flew into his car, and frozen in horror eyes of the driver, a multi-ton machine. "It's not my fault," repeated in a trembling voice the driver of the van, jumping out of the cab. "You saw, he himself carried on the oncoming." He threw only to one driver of those who stopped and ran to help, then to another. "You saw that, didn't you?" "It wasn't my fault," he cried, clutched his head. "Man, don't worry, I'm ready to be a witness." A hand rested on his shaking shoulders. "I called the police, they're coming, and I'll tell you what I saw. You sit down, come to your senses." Someone handed the unhappy driver a bottle of water and sat him down on the curb. "Looks like something happened to the man's brakes, huh?" somebody noticed. A few minutes later, the police arrived, an ambulance. Medics rushed to the driver of the truck. "It's not my fault he hit me." The man kept repeating he was shaking. He could hardly understand what was going on around him. "Now I'll give you a sedative," the doctor promised. "There's no visible damage, but you should still come with us. Nobody's going anywhere." The coroner's order. "Until we get everyone on the ground." The rescuers took Brian's breathless, blood-soaked body out of the car and laid it on the ground, covering it with a sheet. Meanwhile, Mary was purring to herself as she chopped salad and soft music was blasting from the TV. We're on the suburban highway. Suddenly a woman heard. Just 40 minutes ago, there was a fatal accident here. A passenger car crashed into a truck. The driver of the foreign car died on the spot. The cause of the accident will be investigated, but eyewitnesses are reporting that the passenger car's brakes failed, sending it into the oncoming lane. "What, Brian?" the girl said mockingly, looking at the TV screen. "You don't need the money anymore, and all you had to do was to share it with me, and everyone would be alive, and some would be happy. You can't be so greedy." The girl immediately opened a bottle of wine and poured it into a glass. "Well, may the earth rest in peace, Brian." She walked over to Brian's picture. "Here's to you." Mary raised the glass, pretended to cry, and drained it at once. And no one can guess that I set it all up. Mary put the empty glass on the table and spun around the living room, sprinted, and flopped down on the bed. "Now I'll make that fool Lauren sell the firm and split the proceeds in half. We'll split them equally. And if she resists, I'll find a way to scare her." Confident in her impunity, Mary, as if nothing had happened, returned to the apartment. She calmly went to work, did not enter into conversations, while in the office of the company discussed the accident that happened to the young master. A couple days later, the doorbell rang at Mary's apartment. Who did that bring? She grumbled unhappily. I wasn't expecting anyone. Wrapping myself in my robe, I peered through the peephole. "Open up, police!" She heard it and flinched. I didn't call the police. The girl answered confidently, and her heart started to beat fearfully. "Open the door. We have a couple of questions for you." "What do you want?" she asked rudely, clicking the lock. "You're being held on suspicion of premeditated murder. Are you out of your mind?" Mary was outraged. "Who do you think I killed?" "Your lover." "Why would I kill him?" "We were having a good time." "That remains to be seen, but now get dressed and come with us." "I'm not going anywhere." The girl resolutely sat down on the sofa in the living room. "I know my rights. Show me the warrant." "No." "Then goodbye." "Leave my apartment. It's private property. We'll be forced to handcuff you." The young lieutenant said nonchalantly, "In the meantime, we just ask you to come with us until the circumstances of the case are clarified. We have the right to detain you for 48 hours on suspicion of a crime. And you're the first suspect in Brian's murder. The only person who stands to gain from his death is his wife, who's been ripped off. I think she'd be happy to take him out. Are you gonna hold her too? They haven't lived together for a long time, but you're a frequent visitor to the house, as far as we know, and there's a motive." "I have no motive to kill Brian." "How do you think I killed him?" "Are you going to search my place?" "Please search, but you won't find anything." She gave the cops a mocking look. "We know you don't have the murder weapon in your apartment." "Then how did I kill him?" "You damaged the brake hose." "You can't prove it," shouted Mary, and a chill ran down her spine. "I don't even know where it is." "We don't have to prove anything. There's a videotape of the cameras where you can clearly see how you cut the hose with a knife, and you do it very confidently." "I guess your lover forgot to tell you he'd set up video surveillance." "Are you taking on a hustler?" The girl said angrily. "You have nothing on me. And you come with us to the office. There we will show you everything. Get dressed," ordered the man. Mary was taken out of the house and put into the car. "Explain why you did it?" asked the investigator when the girl was taken to his office and shown the surveillance tape. "I didn't want to." Mary sobbed. "It was his own fault. He decided to screw me over. He robbed his wife." "Write that down." "Robbed his wife, gave his father-in-law a heart attack, misled me. I believed him that he'd marry me when he divorced his wife, but he didn't even think about it. He was going abroad. I admit I did what he asked, but I had no idea where it would lead. And Brian's wife, for all we know, is your half-sister?" "Yes, I wanted the firm back in the family. He'd swindled me out of it. So you wanted to punish Brian for cheating. That's Robin Hood in a skirt. But the firm claims that you and your lover deliberately ruined Parker, kicked out Lauren, Charles' daughter. Brian made me do it," justified the girl. "He promised me the Golden Mountains, but he did not keep his promises. It's convenient to blame everything on a dead man. The policeman was silent. You'll still have to answer for the murder. The investigation has no doubts about your guilt. The evidence is ironclad. Sergeant, he shouted, and the duty officer appeared at once. You'll see the detainee. No, Mary cried out in fright. I don't want to go to prison. You can't just lock me up like that. Alas, that is exactly what we have the right to do. You will be kept in custody while the investigation is in progress. It's not fair. I'm so young. She shrieked, breaking out of the man's arms. And I'll come out an old woman. The investigator nodded to the sergeant, who took the stubborn girl into the cell. Lauren began to recover a little after the sad events. She liked her job. Even the rented apartment was no longer annoying, but she missed her home. Couldn't you get the rights to the house back? Her partner wondered. The women became friends and supported each other. To get it back, you have to pay your debts, and I don't have that kind of money, answered Lauren. What if I sue my husband? Isn't there any proof that he took everything by fraud? She shook her head in doubt sadly. Lauren, one day heard the woman on the phone, an unfamiliar male voice.